he turns around and whacks one of them in the Adam's apple off to the hospital. He kicks the other one in the nuts off to the hospital. Side kick to the third one, breaks his knee off to the hospital. And then uniform cops arrest Chuck for assaulting officers. Okay? Well, at his trial, there were witnesses. The witnesses from the bar, a businesswoman from across the street, and it was brought out that these detectives never said a word. They never said, we're police. They never said, you're under arrest. They never said, stop. They didn't say anything. They just slammed Chuck against the car. And for all he knew, it was a mugging or an attempt on his life for unknown reasons. And he was trained in the military, and he knew how to defend himself, and they tackled the wrong guy. And he chewed them up. And those detectives, by the way, were all fired from the police department. Good. One of them said to Chuck that they were going to get him, and he said to that guy, he said, at 1,000 yards, I could take the tip of your little finger off. And he said, you won't see it coming. and so, and he won $140,000 on it too. Good.
I hate to admit it, but we're going to run out of tapes. We didn't come prepared enough for you.
Well, we got that one.
Is there anything? Oh, we are. Is there anything on your list that we didn't cover?
45 minutes on this one left.
Habeas focus. Have we seen? Did we cover everything on your list, or can we squeeze any more out of you?
Well, it's up to you. What, you want to stay for a few more minutes?
Did you cover everything?
Want me to talk about habeas corpus for a few minutes?
Yeah,
sure. Right.
And what is habeas corpus exactly?
Okay. Habeas corpus. Well, there's a part in that stapled. How many pages was it? Was it stapled together? 11 pages.
10 on that one.
10.
There were originally 11, but you'd already given them one. So there's 10.
Okay, 10. There's one in there called is William Penn, and that talks about habeas corpus. Freedom for William Penn. Anyway, that was a story that can practically bring tears to your eyes. Anyway, there's a multimillionaire in Dallas, Ken Evans. He had a ruckus with a judge, and he sued the judge, and her friends who are judges, one of them put Ken Evans in the Dallas County Jail. And because Ken Evans is a multimillionaire, he could hire any attorney in the country. Instead of calling an attorney, he called me. And the net result was a unanimous win at the Texas Supreme Court. In the time he was at the Dallas County Jail, he had a sign up on the wall at the door of his cell, and it declared that he had been kidnapped and that they were his kidnappers. And the jailers laughed at that. But Ken said that the day that the order came down from the Supreme Court of Texas, and that they escorted him out of the jail, he said they were shaking. He said that they were traumatized by this event.
What was the story behind that?
he had sued a judge, and to retaliate against him, they put him in the Dallas County Jail. And the stuff before that goes like this. He had lakefront property, a beautiful home. His wife was the one who read all the MRI scans at Parkland Hospital. She was like even not just a doctor, but the supervisor of other doctors. And Parkland, of course, is where they took Kennedy when he was shot. And anyway, between Ken and his wife, they had considerable wealth and lakefront property. Okay, so there's a lawn right to the lake. Okay, and he has grandchildren. Now, in Texas, there's things called water moccasins.
Those are snakes.
They are poisonous snakes, and Ken had a concern for the grandchildren that they could be playing in the backyard and not paying attention, and especially with the grass, the snakes blend in. The next thing you know, you're snake bit. So what he did was he built a redwood deck, at the back, not covering the whole yard or anything. It was a redwood deck, and he wanted to tell the children to limit their playing to the redwood deck. Well, somebody complained or whatever, and code enforcement told him he had to tear it up, even though his neighbor had one like that. But he had to tear up his. And so he took it to court, and the judge just basically stomped all over him. He was pissed, so he sued the judge, and the retaliation put Ken in the jail. And their stuff was defective. I took a look at the file, and I saw what I saw, and I knew it was defective. I went to the phone and called a businessman that I knew that was not too far away from the courthouse. And I said, would you please come down? I need for you to witness what's in this file. He came on down. I showed him the file. And, he took notice of the defect. And then he and I both did affidavits. And this is an important piece that I might have missed. Deuteronomy 19:15. At the mouth of 2 or more witnesses, so shall the matter be established. So when the police say Mark was speeding, if there's 2 or more of us, we'll sign affidavits. We were in the car, he was not speeding. Valentine's Law Dictionary, the 2-witness rule, our 2 affidavits overcome the police officer.
Would that also overcome a form enforcement thing?
It'll overcome anything that when you apply the witnesses to it. Let me give you another, for instance. In Texas, we have a bystander's bill of exceptions. The way this works, you're in court, stuff happens, the court reporter's taking it all down, right? And before the transcript comes out to you or any of us, the judge looks at it. Okay? And the judge says to the court reporter, take out this, add that, change this. Right?
Right.
And if those who have been around long enough know that this happens, that transcript gets modified. And that's against the law, but it happens. And the clerk doesn't like doing it, but the clerk's bread is buttered by that judge. Okay? So this is the way it goes, and they present to you a transcript that's been changed. tampered with. But in Texas, a bystander's bill of exceptions, 3 affidavits, overrules the court reporter.
Can I ask a question? If I go into the courtroom and carry an illegal tape recorder and tape the entire episode in the courtroom, and I get the transcript and it doesn't verify with what I recorded, can I bring my tape recording forward and say, look, I illegally taped that proceeding. You could probably throw me in jail for it, but they falsified, the judge had the clerk falsify the record here. Who's the crook here, me or them?
Well, before you go to admitting anything like that, I would say I accidentally recorded this.
So the recording would work against them?
Well, the thing is, this is what I was explaining with Dwight's case. Dwight had me bring the recording of the telephone conversation with Werner, and they didn't have any problem with the fact that it was a tape recording of a telephone conversation. And I was going to testify to it, that this was me on the tape, this is the words that happened, that the tape was held completely secure, it had not gone to anybody else's hands, and was exactly the tape recording that I made. So you've got to have a chain of custody.
Right.
And I said, it's always been in my custody, and I'm the one on the tape, and I can verify that this is my recording of my conversation with Werner. And I was there to do that, and there was nobody had a problem with the issue of the tape. Jerry Buckmeyer stopped me because of the issue of the oath. But that goofy guy, they ended up having to apologize at the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals.
I was going to say, before doing that, you need to take the transcript to the court reporter and give her the opportunity to correct it first. I had that done to me twice. There was one time, it was a traffic case. The judge tried like 9 different times to get me to cross the bar. I wouldn't. When I got the CD back, it only had it maybe twice in the beginning. And there were other parts of it cut out. And there was another case that I got, another transcript that I got. There were 3 things that I needed for appeal. All 3 of those things were gone. So that was what I was told to do, is let the court, give the court reporter a chance to correct it first, because they sign under penalty of perjury when they do those transcripts.
Right.
So do that first and then go to the next step.
But then you don't catch them in the act.
One other suggestion, I know that in Susie's trial, you had people who were witnesses to that trial. They sat through there every moment the trial was going on. I know at least 3 or 4 myself that were in that courtroom. You may invite them down to your house
Play the tape.
and play the tape and refresh their memory,
Then they can
and have them do their
They
affidavits.
took shorthand every day.
Well, have them check their notes and do
Check their notes
affidavits.
in the transcript.
And if they're a little bit sketchy, then just have them to share your favorite music on the radio. Take that.
Don't admit to the tape.
Were there things different or just missing?
The best suggestion I've heard is just to hire your own recorder.
Yeah.
$500
Hire your own recorder, rather. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's very costly.
A lot of judges won't allow you to bring your own recorder into the courtroom.
Because it could be the judge too up front, because they control when it's being recorded or not. And this actually could have been the judge's own doings versus the court reporter.
Yeah, he has hold of the button.
So he may have actually taken me off the record different times.
They try to
Actually,
prevent you from bringing a recorder into the building, but I've never once heard a judge say to the audience, if you got a tape recorder, turn it off. I've never heard that.
Oh, be careful. Federal court, it's a crime.
Is
Oh, yes. I found out.
He found out.
I got
But
lucky.
you know that they do have now, it's a spy shop, and you can get a recorder in a pen
I had a watch.
or a watch, either one.
We recorded the entire trial.
You can get them on cell phones too.
And the judge found out about it off the internet, because we went to Richard Cornforth's meeting, and Richard said, everybody ought to see his watch. And they put that up on the internet, and the judge heard it. And the next time I was in that courtroom, I had to come up and talk to the judge. I'm lucky I didn't get in jail for contempt. That's what he would have done. So it's not anything to fool with.
Well, some of the people are already leaving. I guess
Habeas corpus?
habeas corpus. What else to tell you about that? I could send you a sample.
Make a note.
Make a note.
Send the whole file.
Send everything. Yeah.
Wouldn't that be easier for you?
The one I'll send you is of where I made a change in the style that I was doing things. You know, normally I did the habeas corpus. You have to say some stuff up front. It's important stuff. You have to declare what the case number is, the party, what the issue was, so on and so forth. You know, and how long they've been incarcerated, where they're currently incarcerated, because the habeas corpus is directed against the holder of the key, which could be, you know, to the cell, which could be the chief of police if it's a city jail, could be the sheriff if it's a county jail, could be the warden if it's a prison, it could be whoever is with the Bureau of Prisons, the warden, or it could be the U.S. Marshals, you know, but whoever it is that holds the key, the habeas corpus is directed against them. And there's a couple of different styles. If it's the prisoner himself doing it, it's ex parte, and if it's somebody else, it's ex rel, you know, for the people of the state, on behalf of, and then name the prisoner.
Would you have a habeas corpus already written at time of allocution, should allocution be denied, and moving forward with sentencing and
If you got time, you can do it in advance, yeah. Anyway, the change that I made with the habeas corpus for Nicole, is I put in a section that I called preview, and I've never seen anybody else do this, but I put in preview, and I hit them boom, 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 right away in bold print. And like I mentioned earlier, things that scare them are embarrassment and liability. So when they looked at this preview, that's what they saw. And like I say, it arrived in the clerk's desk at 1:05 p.m., and by 5 p.m. she was on the street, and she said they didn't even want to let her finish her meal, and there was no hearing, and there wasn't any exchange of documents. They took one look at that, and she was out. Go ahead.
My question is, when they arrest you and they're shipping you from one state to the next, how do you handle that in reference to the habeas corpus?
Okay, first thing is that the process you're talking about is extradition. And all extradition is a federal matter as such, and there's a case, and I'll have to mark that down to case laws. It was Bozeman versus Alabama, I can't recall. But anyway, they have a limitation, they have a time limitation on them. And typically people just give up and allow themselves to be extradited. But you can fight extradition and prevent them from taking you. And if they don't take the right actions fast enough, you can beat the whole rap. They got this case talks about their time limitations to do the extradition, and it's a federal matter, and so you know, you might have a state issue, like say you're here in Arizona, but they want to extradite you to Pennsylvania. You may be facing something serious in Pennsylvania, and if you could stay in Arizona long enough, they will not be able to take you. So, you could fight extradition. You could do a habeas corpus in that fight. You could do all these things. And I know of one fellow, he spent 276 days in jail, and they were, best I can tell, way beyond the limit. But he had just become aware of the stuff, the limitations. And I think the limit is 120 days, if I recall. Anyway, the day came, they just let him out and let him go. The jailers came to him and said, "You're out of here." He was gone. And the others stayed, kiss off. Habeas corpus. You want me to share one more little story on habeas corpus?
Yeah.
Okay. The mother and the aunt came and shared with me that Ron Gradle had been harassed continuously by the police, and in his past he had been a drinker, etc., DWI stuff. But they shared with me that he had completely given up drinking, but the police had not given up harassing him. And so they had him in the Tarrant County Jail, that's Fort Worth, Texas. And they were prosecuting him for DWI, and he was looking to get 25 to life. And they said, he doesn't drink anymore, but it's just harassment. And I said, okay. So we did up the habeas corpus, and I went there with the mother and the aunt. And when I arrived at that courtroom where his case was in that court, but this was not a hearing for him. I was just arriving out of the blue with the mother and the aunt. And the place was packed. I mean, we're talking standing room only in the audience area. Scads of attorneys running back and forth. Lots of police officers. The jury box is filled with attorneys that are waiting to do their thing. And so I went to the communion rail and I started to open it. Well, the bailiff is on me immediately. And he says, "You can't come in here." And I said, "Well, I need to get this to the judge." And he said, "Okay, well, I'll take it to the judge." So he takes the copy of the habeas corpus to the judge. Judge looks at it, looks at me, looks at this. He gives it back to the bailiff and says something to her. Bailiff comes back to me, and the bailiff says, "You're not an attorney. You have no right to do this, and you need to go home," or whatever, something to that effect. You know? And he said, get yourself an attorney. And so I leave the courtroom, and the way these courtrooms are set up, there's a clerk's area beside every courtroom. So I go to the clerk's area, and the clerk comes to the counter, and I had the Texas criminal codes with me. And so I opened it to Chapter 11, which is the habeas corpus. And I turned it around for the clerk to see. And I said, "See this here? It says that anyone can present a petition for habeas corpus." I said, "That guy on the bench in the next room doesn't know the law. He's incompetent. Who's his boss?" And the clerk is terrified. And it was like deer in the headlights. And all the other clerks gathered around. And I said, that guy is incompetent. He is working against the law, and so on and so forth. I want him removed from the bench. And I said, I want this habeas corpus filed. And they were like terrified. And I still wasn't making headway with it. So I went to the elevator and I went up to another area. And there was a judge that I'd been in his courtroom before. And the bailiff tried to block me. I got past the bailiff. And I got the habeas corpus into the judge's hands. And this one wasn't the same as others, okay? And he said, Mr. Fox, he says, I know that you have a heart as big as Texas, and you like to help everybody. He said, but you could get yourself into some real trouble with this. I didn't want to confront him with, well, you're a dumbass, and, and the law book says anyone can present a habeas corpus. And the mother and the aunt, they don't know, and they were distraught. And so I went back to the original clerks and raised hell with them again. Still, it was still a problem, and but they did take the document, and we went home, and it would appear that nothing was going to happen. So I did up some other stuff and sent it to Ron in the jail. I believe it was to disqualify the judge for gross incompetence and criminal act, obstruction of justice and all that stuff. And Ron gets this stuff from me, and he's sitting there in the bunk, and he's also got something from the court. And he doesn't know exactly what to do, because the thing from the court is setting a date and time for the habeas corpus. And so he went ahead and sent this thing in anyway, which was just a ferocious attack on the judge. Date and time comes up, the mother and the aunt, we go to the courthouse. So we approach the courtroom door, and it's locked. And the bailiff is standing in the hallway, and the bailiff says, are you here for the habeas corpus hearing? And we said, yes. And the bailiff said, there ain't going to be a habeas corpus hearing. That case is dismissed. When they looked at between the habeas corpus and the other stuff about criminal acts and the part of the judge, it was like, we don't want to talk about this anymore. That's it. That's enough. Because the law book said what it said, which I could present the habeas corpus from the beginning. And this idiot had told me, kiss off and get an attorney.
How long before the hearing was set from the date that you gave them that?
It was pretty quick. I don't recall exactly, but I don't think it was anything much more than a week. It might have been 2 or 3 days. Probably about 3 days, I think.
Okay, so with the habeas corpus, you said anyone can do one. So to get it notarized, I can notarize it with my name on it for someone else, right?
Right.
Okay. What about?
Well, who's making the application for it?
Pardon me?
Okay.
She would, I think, she does.
She would for her son.
Affidavit.
Yeah, for my son.
Okay, well, your son is in jail.
Yes. Prison.
Prison. He has to, if either you're doing the habeas corpus or he's doing it, which is it?
we done it together. I gave him stuff to study, and I sent him a copy of yours. Remember, I called and asked you if I could send the copy.
Right.
So he looked at yours. I sent him a Uniform Commercial Codes book and different things that he could study. And so then he put things in, and then basically, mostly I was typing and coaching him along through doing it so that it would be pretty much his work. So then I have a copy of him writing out what he wanted in there, and then I've typed it up and prepared it. And when I went to a notary before with an affidavit, they said that to notarize it, it could not be his name, even though I have power of attorney to handle all of his business. So I wasn't certain about if I can sign my name and be okay with that, being power of attorney, or can I sign his name?
If it's your name, the habeas corpus has to be styled with XREL, you on behalf of the state, for...
With my name at the top instead of his? Like the state, my name?
Yes.
Instead of his
See,
name and the state?
habeas corpus, this is, for those who are new to this thing, habeas corpus in a criminal case is actually civil. The habeas corpus is civil. It can be injected into a criminal case, and when it is, it reverses the parties, because Pennsylvania,
Where I'm from?
where is he in prison?
He's in Pekin, Illinois.
Illinois. Okay. So he's in prison in Illinois, and it would be state of Illinois versus our guy. Okay? That's the way his criminal case is running. When it comes to the habeas corpus, it's XREL, if it's her or anyone else, XREL on behalf of the state of Illinois for him versus the warden, and it's like a reversal. So he's up here as the plaintiff, and the state is down here as the defendant, and that is a powerful change in terms of status and what's going on here.
So if I'm, make sure I understand you, if I'm doing it XREL, it's me versus Pekin, Illinois, or it's him versus Pekin, Illinois, and then me XREL is somewhere at the bottom.
Okay.
You see how you set them up like this? It's always this and that, this versus that.
I can show you exactly, probably with the stuff I've got in the computer after when this ends here. We'll do that. And if I can't find it in the computer here, I can either write it out for you or send it to you. One or the other will figure it out.
That's me too.
Of course, make it a little bit.
Yeah, same here.
Thanks, Bob.
Just send it
Hey,
to
send the
everybody.
whole bit.
Send everything. Listen, if you were sentenced to read the whole thing, you wouldn't have a smile on your face.
All right. Any more questions?
Got another question here.
No ex parte needed.
This is for, this is a complaint. Yeah, this is a civil rights complaint, but it's not habeas corpus. No, this is not habeas corpus. Yeah, this is a civil rights complaint. That's different than a habeas corpus. What else? I should explain for the newbies that habeas corpus can be used for a lot of different things. The system uses it to move prisoners around. Like, say, you might be in prison in Phoenix, and they want you for a trial to testify in a trial in Tucson. They'll use a habeas corpus to get you out of the prison in Phoenix and get you down to Tucson. Now, from the prisoner's side, it can be used, and it's typically used, to challenge their authority, to have you incarcerated, that you may be innocent, and so on and so forth. But it can also be used, like, say, they deny you your heart medication, or the guards are beating you up, or something like that. You can raise those issues in habeas corpus. It's considered an emergency deal. We do not make the writ of habeas corpus. What we do is make a petition for writ of habeas corpus. And then what I do is put with the petition the order granting for the judge's signature, and also the writ of habeas corpus itself, which is not by my signature, but by the judge's signature. But I've got the thing prepared for him. And it was when I made the shift to that, I started having a lot more success with habeas corpus.
He didn't have to do any work, obviously, so he just signed it.
Right.
Would you include in your emails some examples of orders presented to the judge?
Yeah, that goes right with the habeas corpus.
Make a note of it.
Yeah. I just, it's a matter of routine with me. So the main document that I do is petition for writ of habeas corpus, but I attach to it the order granting the writ, and then the writ itself. Those 2 pages, 1 page each, for the judge's signature.
A lot of times, if we go in and put in a final motion for decision, we want to include an order with that decision that we're asking him to make, instead of waiting for the attorney or for him to write it up.
Right.
We want to tell him what we want done. So, do you have any examples of just writing different orders?
For the habeas corpus, I do.
Okay.
For some other things I may or may not, I can't recall.
Okay, my question is, if you have a trustee sale coming up, let's say in less than a week, how would you handle that? Is it foreclosure?
Oh, man.
Yep.
You got your notice with you?
Oh, no, I'm not.
You want to come up to the microphone,
Yeah.
Carla? Carla's the ace on this one. I can tell by her smile.
There is so much she can do. It's like, where do you start? First of all, on your notice, did it have a statement like on the second page that says this is an attempt to collect a debt from a debt collector? Was that on there?
I think I don't have it on me, but I think it was on there.
Was it the full paragraph, or was it just that? Did it say you have 30 days to dispute this debt?
Yeah.
It may not have. It may not have. You can write back to them and request validation of the debt. They have to stop it. There's also things like, yeah, I stopped one last week, twice. There's a lot you can do. They have to post notices on your property, all the mails, and the notice has to contain certain things. The mail that they give you has to be certified. There's like 100 different things that they have to do. They're easy to stop.
If you look at your deed of trust, okay, in your deed of trust that you signed, it tells you exactly what they have to do to properly notify you of a default. And about 90% of them in Arizona do not do that. So if you find any error there, just say you didn't comply with deed of trust. This is an error. I wouldn't tell them what they didn't comply with. I could say it's not in compliance with the deed of trust.
And the deed of
Not in
trust.
compliance with the deed of trust.
You have copies. You signed. I'm saying, don't you have a deed of trust?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, read your deed of trust. There's a section in there that talks about foreclosures.
The deed of trust may also not be valid. The last one that I saw, there was an acknowledgement with it. Actually, there was, but it was dated before the deed was even made, so it's void. By law, they cannot foreclose. They have no document. They have no deed of trust to foreclose with until after 10 years. The notary defect or the acknowledgement defect has to be corrected. If it's not, they can proceed after a 10-year period. It will be deemed as if it was okay all along. But with this particular deed of trust, they have to have a deed of trust to foreclose with. But it has to be acknowledged. There's certain things that it has to have, and if it doesn't have it, they have no deed of trust to foreclose with. Anyway, there's a lot you can do.
They have to have the deed of trust there when they foreclose.
Well, they say they're supposed to have it, right?
Well, yeah. So you got to bring it up.
Right.
You can also do the agency power of attorney thing. Get that. But I would start with the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, or and just the basic elements of the notice and how they have to notice you. There's a lot with that. I'll talk to you after if you want.
Okay. Tape has 8 minutes left maximum, so.
Well, if there's no more questions at the moment.
Robert, I got one.
Oh, okay.
Real quick. Is this on? No, I turned it off. Carly, you never leave them. Anyway, one quick thing. A magistrate judge. Is that an attorney?
Well, he'll be an attorney, all right.
Okay, so if he does not have his bar number on here, this is an invalid search warrant? Is that what this is?
On the indictments, that would be
We're not quite that
this
far
is a
yet.
search
We
warrant.
don't want to get that far.
Huh? This is, yeah, you don't want to get as far as an indictment. You understand that process. What I need to do is send maybe you or everybody the stuff on the letter to send to the U.S. Attorney.
Yeah, I would like that too.
Make a note of that.
Yeah, make a note of that.
Note of that too.
Just sign everything.
Need another notepad?
I got an extra notepad here. Good team here.
Please stop me from the paper until I want to put another one in.
All right. So before you guys leave, it's been suggested that if you want to get a set of DVDs, you may want to check with Susie so she makes a note of that. And make a note of that.
All right, real quick question. Assistant of counsel. Does that give us the permission to speak if I was an assistant of counsel?
That's going to depend on the judge. Typically, they'll say no, but I was in a situation with a woman who was, I think, around 78 years old, and she was like shaking, and she turned to me and she said, "Robert, can you help me?" And I stood up and said to the judge, "The woman's 78 years old. She could have a heart attack over this thing. She's so stressed out she can't function, Judge. But I'm familiar with the matter. Would it be okay if I helped her out?" And the judge said, "Very well, Mr. Fox, you can help out." And then I launched such an attack on the attorney. It was like choking to you.
Do we get a copy of that too?
I wish I had that.
Try to end it.
Of course.
We were going on 5:30, and we only have 4 minutes left of the tape.
Right.
So
We're coming to the end, so you got something to say?
They're kicking us out.
Yes, I was going to say, if you want to stay and talk to people or whatever, but we're going to shut down the tape.
Yeah.
So we only have 4 minutes left, so
Okay.
we can adjourn the meeting and.
Did everyone enjoy the thing?
When's the next one?
What was the question? Fade out, do a nice fade out. Professional.
But wait, before, is the thing still running?
Yes.
Okay, I want to say something. You are a wonderful bunch of people. I've been thanking Susie and Ron for inviting me out here, and I think we've made some connections here that hopefully we'll be in touch for years to come and always be friends.
Great.
Thank you. I'd like to thank you for coming out and opening an invitation to my home for you, along with your Texas computer.
Conditional acceptance.
And I'd be glad to work with you for a week or so to maybe get this stuff to a point where it's a little bit easier for you to present it.
Okay.
And maybe slide presentations or PowerPoints or whatever you want in order to make this a more successful project for you.
I want to keep in touch with you too, Mike.
Thank you.
So, yeah, appreciate it.
One last question. What does your wife think of all this?
Which one?
My wife,
He is cruel. He is cruel.
my wife left because she felt that she'd be killed when they come to murder me. And I'm not kidding about that.
We understand. That's a tough
My wife
life.
thinks the same thing.
I can't get mine to leave.
Well, start a lawsuit against the government.
Yeah.